Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Matt from Barrel 73. This is my individual review of the Saturday night's main event where John Cena's final match occurred. It isn't going to be very long. I just share my thoughts on our Wednesday Night's Overbooked post event live stream with Joker's Voice and Ego. And we did talk about it again on Wednesday Night Overbooked, which was yesterday relative to this broadcast. But I wanted to offer my individual take on it as well. Some thoughts that I didn't have the time to share on the group show. So one by one, personally, there was the rumor that the Wednesday night was overbooked. The rumor that John Cena's match would be first rather than last. And then it wound up being last. They probably should have put it first, given all that occurred, because I believe the audience had a not really greatly satisfied taste at the end of the event, for what occurred. That being said, we opened with the ruler of the future ruler of the WWE, the Destroyer, the bringer of change, Obafemi, making his first main roster appearance in the ring against Cody Rhodes. Now, how do we frame this match? This is the future challenging the present, okay? And Oba is the next big thing. Oba has the potential to be WWE's next Undertaker level big man, right? Kane wasn't that, although he came close. Certainly not the Big Show or Braun Strowman. Oba has that potential, right? He's not quite as big as Taker was in his prime in the 90s physically, but he's somewhat more agile. So, and he has the persona. He's a heel, by the way, now. And so this was his first exposure to the mass WWE audience. I would say less than 25% of which watch NXT. Okay. To the match itself, the first 2/3 to 3/4 were really good. The ending, they had to end it on shenanigans because they were not going to let Oba beat Cody on the first match clean. And they were not going to have Cody beat Oba clean just to protect Oba, who's in the middle of a run. And I said this before when I was doing a review of this. They did not book Oba strong going into this event, okay? But he looks strong here. So what do we get? We get, oh no, Drew McIntyre runs out on Cody Rhodes. They could have done other things. Maybe one thing that would have been interesting is if the Vision had interfered and they could have had Oba have a feud with one of the members of the Vision, the Sheik himself, Bronson Reed, any number of things other than, yet again, Drew McIntyre whining about not getting his opportunities, being screwed over, wanting to interfere in a match. And they did sort of have Oba beat up on him too, which leads me to think they might have Oba, because he's going to get cheered more than booed. Even though he's a heel on NXT, he's getting cheered because they love him. They might have him come up as a face first. So that's why I think that. No. I believe I have a listener. If you're out there, hello. Show comments on stage. Yes. I turned comments on stage so that I could see them. And so first match, I'll call it a 7 out of 10. And second match, Sol Ruka versus Bayley. Bayley is here because Bayley's already a Hall of Famer just waiting when she retires. So she lost this match, put Sol over. I don't think she was the ideal opponent because Sol had to slow herself down quite a bit. She's normally a much significantly faster worker. Kind of like for the slower scale of events, male to female, works kind of like Javon Edwards. She does a lot of high flying attacks. She's a big girl, so she looks like when you have a big person doing the high flying stuff, it always looks better. I would rate this match as an 8 out of 10 in terms of pure enjoyment factor. Soul's clearly going to come up in the Women's Royal Rumble, just like Oba's coming up in the Men's Royal Rumble. My prediction, by the way, is Oba goes in first, dominates, sets the record for eliminations, like Joker Voice at that point, and I agree. And it wins the Royal Rumble and challenges Cody for the title at WrestleMania. That's my thought on this. Okay, but anyway, the next matchup was the best match. Was the best match on of the event. It was too short. Should have been about 10 minutes longer. It was AJ Styles and Dragon Lee versus Javon Evans and Heath Slater, Leon Slater. Okay, these guys were all over the freaking place. Okay. Now the only controversy, what's not really a controversy, was what appeared to be a botched phenomenal forearm. AJ is good enough that botched phenomenal forearm really could have been on purpose. And this is one thing you have to remember, okay? Having imperfections in the match, moves that miss, things like that, make wrestling more believable in terms of being a visual combat sport, even a simulated combat sport, right? And so it's believable in, say, mixed martial arts, like guys miss their punches or kicks, fall down occasionally, and go and recover from it. So AJ missing a phenomenal forearm, in a way where he just fell down and kept going, not a way, it's believable that he faked it, right? So I would rate this a match a 9 out of 10. Oh, it would have been a higher if it were actually longer. And now we get to John Cena's final match. I'm not going to belabor the point on this, okay? I will say it was nice seeing all those people in the crowd. One thing, if you want to know how big modern wrestlers are, Haku, the monster among men back in the 80s and 90s, King Tonga in the WWE, arguably the toughest human being ever to be a pro wrestler, Haku, was in the audience, and he towered over people in the 80s and 90s. And I know he probably shrunk 4 or 5 inches due to being in the 60s or whatever, but he's tiny compared to modern wrestlers, even small guys, so to speak. We saw Shane McMahon. Now, unfortunately, Vince wasn't there. I didn't have to come out. It would have been nice if Vince could have been in the behind the scenes in the grill position, because I'm sure there'll be some private dinner that we don't know about where Vince is there and all that. But it was just a nice spot to have Vince at. A lot of people were there in the stands. A lot of wrestlers came out at the end. But let's get back to the nitty-gritty. And we already talked about why it was Gunther and all that, right? So, yep, John Bernthal was there, waiting to punish Michael Cole for his intransigence. I feel praise for you with metal. Well, welcome to the show. Apparently, there were a lot of celebrities in the audience that, if you can go keep watching, you keep picking up people, right? So the match itself, I would say the first half of the match was really good, and Gunther had to carry John through this match. We know Cena is not physically capable of what he was even 3 years ago. So Gunther is the perfect guy to carry John through this match safely, cleanly, make John look good, make himself look good. Okay? First half of the match was good. Not great, but good. Okay, told the story I wanted to tell. The next quarter of the match, I felt was a little, well, because of how they ended it, the third quarter of the match felt off. Because the fourth quarter of the match was the 5 minutes of sleeper holds. Okay? And so to do the work they did in the third quarter and wind up with 5 minutes sleeper holds and John Cena tapping out, just felt, it felt off, and that's what it comes down to. John Cena tapping out. Triple H now John Cena called this entire match. Okay, he called pretty much every move. And when they were playing this match out, because they do plan the big matches out most of the time, Cena and Gunther and their match producer were sitting down, mapping out what they're going to do, how they're going to do it in general. I know Cena likes to work a little tighter, so there's probably more detailed plans. Um, when when they get the general script for the match and go to the writers, and then they get the match director to approve, and Triple H has to approve it. But there's someone Triple H has said, "No, John, you cannot tap out. You can be choked out. You can be damaged, retired, like where Gunther decides to break John Cena's neck or something like that. Now you wouldn't do that angle unless he had to stand up at the end of the thing, but." Cena tapping out does not sit well with me. Okay. I would have preferred Cena gets choked out and do the 3-arm drop. And then I would have preferred Gunther stands up, stands over him, does the you can't see me and hits him with the 5-knuckle shuffle. And then walks out of the ring like knocking the sweat on Cena. I would prefer something like that. So Cena didn't quit, but Cena was just taken out by a guy who took him out. Overall, I'd rate the match because of what I call a disappointing way to finish it. I'd rate the match like a 4 out of 10. Gunther himself and for his performance in the ring, he's almost 10 out of 10. And Cena, for what he was capable of, was 6 or 7. But the actual story told in the match was a very sour taste around up because of the John Cena tap out. The event, Saturday night event, wasn't too long. I liked the celebration at the end. I like Cena taking off his shoes and his bracelets and leaving them there. That was classy. That's why everyone came out. Shane and Stephanie were there. I don't know if Linda was there or not. We know Vince wasn't there. So those are my general thoughts on this. Phil, if you have a question, I'll give a minute to see if it pops up. That's all I really want to do this video is get my general assessment of the thing. If I see if Phil has any questions, I'm going to say in about an hour, I will be on Roman of the Empire's show, which is the year-end show. Last night, we did our year-end for Wednesday night overbooked. We dropped all of our top 5s and a whole bunch of categories. We don't have a questions video this week. This one I'm on. Yeah. Well, what I remember, Phil, sadly, John Cena tapping out. A really good match between AJ, Dragon Lee, Javon Edwards, and Leon Slater, which would have been better if it was a fatal 4-way, by the way. His channel, Phil, is called Roman of the Empire with no spaces. So just type in Roman of the Empire, but don't put any spaces in. And I'll remember. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I'll remember from it. One more funny comment. WWE must have a special cameraman whose sole job, since they got to face. Remember way back in when the Undertaker's last match happened, and the meme from that is the black guy with that totally shocked facial expression. They do this every pay-per-view now. They must have one person whose job is to find that black person with that totally shocked facial expression and just show it every time now. Because they had a woman who with that facial expression they do on purpose. They put that person's face on the screen for 5 to 10 seconds, whereas the other people they flash through them. But so there's stuff to remember. This was, as far as WWE's premium live events, this was somewhere in the top half of them. It's not as unforgettable as a lot of the other ones were, or boring as a lot of the other ones were. Well, in any case, that's my opinion for you folks. I'm gonna log out now and just get ready for my live stream, Roman. Thank you, Phil, and anyone else for listening. Like if you like. I'm trying to do these little updates, at least these short live thought videos on my channel. Keep it going while I'm going through my medical issues. Thank you. This is Matt from Miracle 73. I am out of here.